Well, I guess could you just get me started on how and why you started this business you currently have?
Okay, well, the main reason, I've always been an entrepreneur since I was 17. I had my first job there, and I already realized that I loved the freedom that entrepreneurship is giving. So for me, it always been natural to start projects and follow them through. But the big shift in my career went because I used to be a cocaine addict for 10 years, and I used to fill all my energy, my passion, my confidence through the use of substances. Whether it would be alcohol to be more social or weeds to fall asleep, I've always used something to control myself. And one morning I woke up and I took a line of cocaine like every morning, and I started crying because after 10 years of consuming so many drugs, my body was not there anymore. So I started crying, called some friends and said, hey, I need some help. I cannot do it like right now. This is not happening. And I met a psychiatrist, and she told me that I was not a junkie, but I was suffering from ADHD. And that just opened my eyes, because when I saw all the paperwork about ADHD and untreated ADHD in the adult, I was just like having this thing saying each stage of my life that would happen. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly me. This is my profile. So that shifted my mind and made me realize that I didn't need drugs in order to perform. But that time I was really into need of change. So I left, and I wanted in love with a Brazilian woman. So I went to Brazil to follow her. And then we broke up, and I started traveling around the world, going to different cities in the world, discovering myself, discovering how the world is. And I would just do some small project in every places, still keeping on my entrepreneurial mindset. But then I realized that something was recurring, that everywhere I would go, the same problem, the same people, and the same situation would happen all the time. And I realized that whatever I do, how far I can go from the initial situation, it just keeps on repeating. And that's where I understood that I am the center of all the things happening in my life. Really big moment of realization that everything starts here, and then we're just playing in this world with the limited mindset that we have. When we have a limited mindset, we don't have much to play with. So realizing that me and all the people who used to consume drug like me, we were all blocked in the same limited mindset. I realized that the best thing I could do for myself is to learn how to unlock my mind. And one thing that I always do when my passion is starting to take too much time and cost too much money, I just make it a job so I don't have to pay for it, you know. I was always like this. If it costs me too much money, I'm just gonna make money out of it.
Hmm.
And it's also a way to feel a passion, and also to say, hey, I want to be the best out of it. So I'm making more money and I have more time, and people come to me for that. And it really was a good time to start, because 2020 really opened up the minds of most people, seeing that mental health and emotional health are really so important. So I just like really love circumstances, mainly was my health, but then realizing that it's a solution that I can bring to anyone, regardless to their age, to their financial situation, to their physical health. The only thing you need if you want to work with your mental health is a desire to do it. Because there's always something you can do, whether it would be reading a book or whether it would be doing some yoga, meditation. There's always something you can do to whatever stage you are that will improve your life. And the earlier you start, the better it will be.
I love that. That's amazing that you did that entire thing. Like, I don't even know where to start with that. Personally, I'm in recovery, and so I always really feel for another person when they share their story of recovery, but I've never heard that before, that it can be traced back to ADHD.
Mhm.
Like that's insane to hear. Do you feel that with being an entrepreneur in Belgium and Brussels, like you've been all over the world is what it sounds like, but do you feel that being an entrepreneur not in America is different than in America? Because in America we have this very much like hustle mindset where we have to like break out of the matrix, like have financial freedom, like very much just be like wealthy and successful. Like it came from Benjamin Franklin originally, and like Poor Richard's Almanac is like where it originated from. And Benjamin Franklin is someone who started the Declaration of Independence or like created it. Wait, I think
Mhm.
he did. But do you think that that same mindset is similar overseas? Does that make
Not
sense?
at all. Not at all. This mindset is not the same everywhere. I think here in Europe, uh, there is a big separation, the rich and the poor. You know, like if you want to be an entrepreneur, there is this feeling that if you're trying to break out of poverty, you're betraying people. You know, like that the people in power are wealthy, and there's this belief that if you want to be wealthy, you want to control others. And I actually really loved being in some places, some entrepreneurial hubs like Singapore or Bali, or even in Latin America when I was in Bogota. I met a lot of entrepreneurs with this American mindset of like, we have the power to shine as much as we want. And it's our duty to shine so much in order to spot the light on others' path. You know, this is this mindset I really love, that American mindset of like, the only limit is your imagination, so go as high as you can. And when I'm back here in Europe, wealth is seen way differently. Wealth is very like much of a generational thing, like it's a family thing. And we don't have what we call the new rich, you know, like there is some, but the new rich is more like an American thing or Asian thing. And when I see around myself, I feel like there's kind of like a shyness here of showing off how much money you make. There is this feeling of like, oh, we need to be careful about people knowing that we're making money, and people love pretending they don't have money even though they have money, which is creating a lot of mind problem in the lives of people, because I'm working with some people here, and they're like a lot of money scarcity, and I'm looking at them and I see how much they're making, and I'm like, you actually have a pretty good decent situation, but your mindset of like, I should not enjoy so much the money I have is really destroying them. So yeah, the mindset is not the same, but there is right now through social media a more of international culture where the cultures of the younger people are like melting with what's happening everywhere. And the hustle culture, the entrepreneurial culture is very much Americanized here in Europe, because we don't have so much of an essence of entrepreneurship the way where, I mean, there is, but I don't feel the same freedom being promoted there.
Okay, that makes sense. Because over in the US, like the way we view pretty much most of Europe is like y'all have freedom, like it's more peaceful, it's not as mentally draining, you're not focused on money, you're focused on family. Um, that's kind of how we see more of Europe. So I wanted to kind of see how like y'all saw our culture, I guess. That's interesting though. It's really cool how TikTok and Instagram and all of that just ends up connecting everyone together. Like I found you on Facebook, which is
Yeah.
crazy. What would you say your favorite part of being a like coach, hypnotist? I don't know what you identify as. What would you say your primary career is?
My primary role is master hypnotist, and in that scope, I'm a therapist, I'm a coach as well, I'm a counselor. All of these function goes under the umbrella of mentorship. You know, like I would say, I mentor people in their life, I'm guiding them. There is in one word that is taking the whole scope of what I'm doing, because coaching people is giving them motivation. In my opinion, you know, a coach is there to tell you, hey, I know you can do 5 more push-ups, so I'll be there next to you until you do them. You know, that's coaching people. And then there's also the part of like, hey, I want to give you advices because I know you're going to make a mistake. I don't want you to obey to me, but I want you to listen to that advice, which is counseling. So there is different things, but the main thing I'm doing is hypnotizing people and getting them to connect with the deeper parts of themselves so they can transform who they are. Because changing your life is very easy. You need to know where you are. So emotionally, your identity, what it is right now, you need to know yourself where you are so you can tweak it and transform it. And hypnosis is one of the fastest way to bypass all the blocks that you have and then find the roots of what needs to be changed and then just unlock it. So when you wake up, you literally wake up as a new person. And most of the people on social media don't believe in overnight success, but I do, because my work is literally about having people who have, for example, imposter syndrome, who have this stack of skills, but they don't believe in themselves. So for years, they cannot do anything. But then you just unlock that belief and boom, all the skills that they have, they just happen to be working at once. So, the idea of overnight success for me exists because I don't believe we should be grinding for years before being successful. I think the sole desire to be successful, and when we have the alignment between the emotions, the mind, and the body of like, oh, I have the energy to do it, I have the will to do it, and I feel good about doing it, that's a pure alignment. It should go straight ahead. Like anything that you take for granted or it's normal, for example, having a roof or having a regular paycheck, that's something you're totally okay with. If you want something new, there's nothing that's going to prevent you from doing it besides the limiting beliefs. So once you remove the limiting beliefs, it's just a question of mastering the skills. But that will always need work. A beginner needs to work as much as a master needs to work on his skills. So the main part of my job is being a master hypnotist. And what I love the most about it is that in 20 minutes, I have people coming to me, which are like telling me they have such huge problems and that you can really see on their face that they're not feeling good about it. And 20 minutes later, they just wake up with this huge smile being like, hey, actually, I know I can do it. And then the next day they call you and they're like, you're a wizard. You're doing magic. I don't know what happened. For years, I could not do it. And now I'm doing it. Or this guy who was so stressed, he could not sleep for 9 months. He told me like 9 months not sleeping. Could see on his face how bad he was feeling. One session, 20 minutes later, in the next night, he slept 9 hours like a baby. And now he's sleeping every day like a baby, so the results that can be brought to people in such short time, that's what amazing. And that's what I truly call transformation, because we talk a lot of personal development, and I make the difference between personal development and transformation, is that personal development is about developing your persona. So you take what you already have and you develop, you make more of what you have. Transformation is going to form a new identity. It's literally you're Mr. A and you develop yourself into this way, but then the next day you go Mr. B and you can develop yourself. So for me, transformation is like the foundation for personal development. Unless you're happy with who you are and you want to become more of who you are. But if you want to become someone different, personal development will not do it. It's only transformation that will do it.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Do you take like any work from other hypnotists that you implement into your own practice? Or
Yeah.
certain books? I know there's one book, it's Journey of Souls, and that's a pretty popular hypnosis book. Have you read it?
I have not read. I'm not a big fan of reading. I'm more learning from listening and from observing and from experience. For me, direct experience is the best thing. So the way I learned hypnosis, the first time I got hypnotized was more than 15 years ago when I was studying advertising. At the time, I was really wanting to be an art director. And I had my first experience there, and then I started learning how to self-hypnotize myself and explore the world of trance by myself. Then I started listening to YouTube videos, especially the work of Michael Sealey. It was an amazing YouTube channel with so many different protocols of hypnosis you can listen to. And a very good thing with hypnosis is that's something that you literally can learn by doing, because when you're on hypnosis, your subconscious being much more receptive, everything that you will hear while being hypnotized will be set in stone inside of your subconscious. So you will be able to remember it. So whatever hypnosis you're going through, technically you're able to do it to someone else. So that was a huge part of my learning, was few years of every day having 1 to 2 hours of recording from YouTube. Then I followed many online seminars. I loved the work of Mark Cunningham, which is a very good guy, and I had a mentor for a few months as well. I also love the work of Erickson, who is a very older generation. And now I'm listening to Scott Jensen's. You can find him on YouTube. He's doing a advanced conversational hypnosis, which is a type of hypnosis that is so much more powerful than the traditional hypnosis, allowing me to ask only 3 to 5 questions to a person and get a resolution. So it's very fast. Don't have to put people into a deep trance, but the results are exceptional, because I'm just talking with people and asking 1 or 2 questions. I get people to just freeze a little bit at one point, and then something happened. They just understand the paradox that's happening in their minds, and either they have an emotional release, like crying or whatever, or they just let go of the problem and realize that it's okay. And that is something I really love, because it just really, like, people get kind of like surprised about it. They're like, oh, we're gonna do hypnosis, I'm gonna be sleeping, whatever, and 5 minutes later they're like, wow, it's already over. So it's pretty nice.
That's crazy. What would you define a successful client as?
What's a successful client?
Yeah. Like what kind of session would make you leave and feel like you just like this is why you do the work? Or is it every session?
Right now it's mostly every session. What is, I mean, like, each person gets results to a certain degree. The level of stress and trauma a person is experiencing will have a higher or lower result. So someone who is highly stressed and is not able to be present and try to feel their emotions, I will only get them to calm down. And if someone is already calm, I can get them to change their lives. So for me, a successful client is someone who is willing to receive the change during the session. A lot of people want attention to receive permission to let go. And a lot of people wants to be witnessed in order to let go, because it's so much easier when we are witnessed in our emotions. So a successful client is someone that knows it's ready to let go.
Do you have your own hypnotist that you see?
Yes, I have one. It's called Dan Pilogre. He's an amazing Canadian guy who is very, very powerful. Sometimes I'm thinking he's too powerful, because every time I'm having a session with him, I just take action. I take my phone. I'm calling some people like, I don't want to talk to you anymore, or whatever. It's really this kind of guy who makes you flip your life like a coin. Like, you think your heads, and he's like, no, you're gonna see. After this session, you'll not be the same person. So he's a very great guy. I recommend him. If you type Dan Pilogre on Facebook, you'll find him, and he'll be happy to hypnotize you. I also have other healers, coaches, whatever, that I'm working with. Currently, I'm working with 3 different people who are helping me and supporting me, because we need, I believe each person needs to receive different kind of support. You know, some people are more warm, some people are more gentle, some people are more like straightforward, telling you what's your shit. You know, depending on what you need. You know, for my business, I need people who are straightforward, saying, hey, this is the shit, you need to accept it and you need to change it, because it's not going to happen if you're not doing it. For more emotional stuff, sometimes I just want to have someone to just listen to me for hours and not saying anything. And sometimes I just want to have people who have this gentle energy that are just like giving me the space to relieve.
I love that. That's amazing. What would you say the hardest part of being a hypnotist is, or like in this field? Do you find yourself like having very emotionally draining days at all? Like with those hours of work, or like does your own hypnosis session sometimes come into play in other people's? Like, do you find it hard to differentiate your own problems at times?
Um, Not really. Sometimes I was afraid before if I was like projecting, but I really learned how to put myself on the side and really focus on the person and make the person in front of me the center of my attention, and my emotion and my feelings would just disappear, and would really connect to the person and get myself into their shoes. And by listening to them, by observing the body language, by really seeing all the behaviors, because 95% of the communication is through the behavior of the body language and the way the tonality of the voice is being expressed. So I'm really observing every little detail I can see. I mean, that is happening because I meditate at least 1 hour every day, and I do also 1 hour of yoga. So I'm getting to a level of presence that is really getting me there. I'm avoiding coffee. I'm avoiding anything that's exciting me, so I can in any moment be really present and give my full attention to the person in front of me. Like this, I'm able not just to listen to the person, but also receive all the information and feel it. You know, I'm a very visual person, so very often I'm listening to the person, but I'm having this mental story that is happening, their visual story, that is giving me so much more information about what they're feeling, what they're expressing. And then I can really reframe what they're saying to see how they react to the way I reframe their story. If I reframe their story and they look at me like, oh, you understood me, I know I'm not projecting anything. Of course, sometimes some people are a bit more closed off. And when you come with the truth from your side, from your perspective, they might be like, oh my God, this person is understanding me and I'm scared to fully open. The readiness to be open and to be transparent is the most important thing in a coaching session. If the person is scared about showing who they are, it's going to be harder for them to heal. But that is just a matter for me to be very patient and accept anything that they'll tell me. Whether they'll tell me they have some fantasies that are not that are shameful, or whether they tell me that something happened in their lives, it's just okay. You know, that making everything okay is the best thing anyone could do in a coaching or healing session.
Interesting. I like the part where you talked about being able to really listen and develop that story and then kind of like restructure it back to a person. That's actually like a therapy technique, I believe. Um, did you have to get any sort of like certifications for like being a hypnotist, coach? I think a lot of like the coaching certifications are a little bit made up, like you don't 100% need them.
So I started without any certifications, but then at one point I did ask me if there was something that I didn't know in these kind of certifications. That's why I started following seminars and started to pass some of them. and then realized that I already had everything in myself, and that the most important key is to first accept that you don't know what's going to happen in a coaching session. I never prepared any sessions, and in all the trainings that I've been to, like, you need to prepare your session, and like I don't know what the people will say. So preparing a session, unless you have like a yoga class and you know what you want your student to do, there is no need of preparing, because your client is telling you everything they need. And the only thing you need to do at a more basic level is to reframe their story to say, from your point of view, it might seem bad, but from my point of view, it's nothing wrong. You know, that's the most basic thing you can do, and that works. You know, you don't need to be a coach. One day I realized that, to me, being a coach or a therapist was more about being a good human being than a professional. And I've had coaches that charge 2,000, 3,000 an hour, and I also had friends that don't charge anything and are just being friends. And I realized that one person, I had one lady, she was charging like 2K for a session, and she had so much professionalism in the session that it didn't felt comfortable for me. It really felt I was, you know, paying that very expensive luxury bag, but there was no quality into it. As of having a friend that just accepts you the way you are, that's priceless, you know. And that's what people need. People need to feel loved. People need to feel accepted. That's the only way to heal. You cannot heal people in another way. I mean, there is some techniques of energy healing or whatever, but at the most core basic level, accepting people the way they are and showing them that they can love themselves is enough, which is also very empowering, saying, hey, look, if you love yourself, which is something you can do yourself, you don't need anyone. If you love yourself, you will feel better. So simple as that. Just listen to the person and say, well, I wonder why you don't love yourself, because I loved you even before knowing that. And now that I know that, I still love you. Mm-hmm. And that is healing in itself, being, hey, you know what? The reason you thought you should not be loved, for me, it's a reason to love you. That just makes some shifts.
It's just incredible the work you do. I'm honestly like so interested in this. I really want to get into hypnosis after this meeting, actually. I want to look into it. I completely agree with that. It's like whenever you go to a professional, it's somewhat harder, I feel like, to feel accepted at times, because you know that they're almost like there to make you feel accepted and feel loved. But at the same time, it's like they're in that position to make you feel that way. Like they do care about you for that reason. They're in that career path for that reason. But having friends that truly accept you for who you are really like the foundation stones to happiness, in my opinion. Like just feeling loved, like going to a friend and not feeling judged. That's just such an incredible feeling to have, that I recently achieved like within the past 2 years, like really having a support system that just doesn't care. They're just like, sure, like I'll talk to you. Like they don't care in a good way, I guess you could say. They have no judgment. There's no, like, they hold me accountable if I'm acting out, but most of the time there's just no judgment there. And it's such a wonderful and welcoming feeling to have.
Okay. What about we go through a quick hypnosis now?
Let's try it. Why not?
Okay, cool. Are you feeling comfortable with doing this live?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. Well, make yourself even more comfortable in your seat. Can you take a rest on the wall, or do you have like a good chair?
Yeah, I can lay on the wall.
Okay, perfect. So I want you to tell me, how relaxed do you feel on a scale from 1 to 10?
About a 7.
About a 7. Okay. Do you believe we can double this number and make you relax to a level of relaxation that would be equal to 14?
I believe so.
That's right. You believe you can relax so much that you're even more relaxed than the maximum of relaxation than you believe you could be relaxed. So tell me, what would you like to experience during this session?
Um, I think not having as much self-doubt and focus on the future would be a great thing to be free from.
So you want to relieve yourself from self-doubt and focus a bit less on the future. So in other words, you want to trust yourself in the present moment.
Yeah.
That's right. You want to trust yourself in the present moment. And would you tell me what is preventing yourself from trusting yourself in the present moment?
I think a lot of the past experiences I've gone through, I've like had to fight my entire life. So I haven't been able to not fight. So I'm afraid of reacting to people again, if that makes any sense. Like I'm afraid to hurt more people. Um, because I've just always been in like a fight or flight mode.
Hmm. So, according to your past, you believe it's going to repeat itself. And because you're looking at your past, you're wondering how your future will be. And rather than creating your future, you're repeating your past. Is that so?
Yeah,
That doesn't sound very wise, does it?
it doesn't, no.
It doesn't sound very wise. So, why don't you let go of that past? That's right. You can let go now.
Okay.
Yeah? How would it be to let go now?
Um, I feel like it would be freeing. It would open up a new avenue of growth in my life.
It would be freeing and open up a new avenue in your life.
Yeah.
Hmm. And what is preventing you from opening a new avenue in your life?
Um, I guess not being able to trust myself.
Not being able to trust yourself. And who is not trusting yourself?
I'm not.
You're not trusting yourself. Well, you did do what you said by showing up on this call. So that's trust. Can you trust yourself to show up on this call?
Yes.
So you can trust yourself, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
You can trust yourself, but yet you say that you don't trust yourself.
Yeah,
Can you see the paradox here?
I definitely can.
Hmm. So why don't you pretend that you trust yourself all the time? And once you start pretending that you trust yourself, why don't you just stop pretending and just trust yourself? right. Just all happened by itself. And let go now. Allow this process to take all the time you need, because you have all the time you want. So just let go now, step by step, letting go of the control of this past identity, and allowing yourself to create a new path, a path that you want, a path that is serving you, a path that is more loving for yourself. That's right. You can let go. It's safe to let go. It's natural to let go. If you want to let go, you can let go now. And you're back.
I am.
Wow. That was nice.
It was. I feel so relaxed right now.
Yeah, I told you, this is the power of this technique. Just need to ask a few questions, and with the tone of my voice, I just get you to go very far away.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's very weird. It reminds me a lot of like art therapy. Have you tried that? Like ART, not like painting
Oh,
art,
no,
but
I shouldn't know.
ART is like where you follow this dot. It's like EMDR, but you follow
Okay.
the dot, and then the person who instructs you tells you to then like paint this picture in your mind. And it's like you would envision like a traumatic event, like a movie scene. So
Mhm.
it's like you have to do multiple sessions on different things. But say if you like got raped, you imagine that scene like a movie scene, like you're watching it. And
Mhm.
then you imagine it how it would be if like how you would want it to happen, if that makes any sense. So like instead of getting raped, like you went and got ice cream or
Yeah.
like that. And then you keep watching it like the movie scene that you would want a bunch of times. And if there's any like bits and pieces of something that you like don't want that's left that you can still like see in your movie scene, you paint over it with like a paintbrush, like in your mind. So it seems kind of like similarly structured. It's very interesting.
Nice. Yeah, I read about this in a Tony Robbins books, and I've tried these kind of things. It's something that can be done through deep trance hypnosis too. Um, but I mean, it for me it really depends on the person. You know, depending on how the person feels and how the situation. For you, it was pretty easy because you were pretty relaxed, so it was not a problem to put you on ACH. Some people who are very stressed, I just calm them down and don't really give them a full resolution. But yeah, depending on how I perceive the person at the beginning of session, I just improvise there. But you were an amazing subject, so I think you will have a lot of pleasure going through therapy and healing.
Thank you. My body just feels so much more relaxed.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
that's
It's
good.
not
That's
even
good.
just mentally. Like I had really bad back pain this
Yeah,
morning. Like it's kind of like fidgety, but it just like it doesn't hurt anymore
yeah.
either.
So the thing, like for me to pinch my fingers and keep them pinched, I need to send an electrical signal from my brain that goes from my arm to my fingers. And that is me having this idea in my mind. And then I put it on the side of my mind so my hands stands like this. And when we have trauma and back pain, neck pain, all of this regular pain most people have, is because they created that idea during the traumatic event. And that idea of I need to save myself is still there. That idea is stuck there. So I would say 20 hours a day, they have that idea in their mind, sending this electrical signal in their body, creating this muscle tension. And that's how I created a protocol of hypnosis for full body relaxation, because I realized that when we're going to sleep, we're turning off the brain and starting to dream, and we don't have control of the body. So we're not sending a signal to the body. And what's happening when we're doing hypnosis is that we're teaching ourselves how to turn off the parts of the brain we don't need. And when we're doing these kind of things, like I made you realize a paradox in your life. We don't have problems in life. We have a paradox. There is a paradox of you saying, I don't trust myself. Yet trusting yourself is doing what you say. And you said, I will be on this call. So I just show you that there is a paradox. And having this paradox in front of the belief that you have just make this idea of I need to be stressed, I need to do more in order to be trusted, melt away. So all the tensions that you were feeling because of this just melt away. And so, for example, here it's been 2 minutes I've been talking, my hand didn't move because I decided it would be like this. Most people at one point, their hand would just fall back down and being like, oh, but I put that idea on the side of my mind, so my hand is staying there. It's just moving because my body is moving, but regardless of that, my arm is locked here. And when I want it, I can move it. So that's where I found a huge power into hypnosis, because you're learning how to control your mind. And by controlling your mind, you can control your body. Once you control your mind and your body, you control your life, and you can do whatever you want, whether it would be to become an entrepreneur or an athlete. Once you control your mind, you control your body, and then you control your life.
That's amazing. I've
Yeah.
always read those articles about it. I really don't know what to say. Like it's all so interesting. It's been a very mind-opening past like 45 minutes talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate your time. Unfortunately, I do have to go.
No worries.
It was amazing speaking with you. This session podcast episode has been great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I would be happy to come back if you want me on, again on the podcast. If you have anyone watching this podcast or listening to this podcast and want to try hypnosis with me, you can find me on Instagram at the best of Asha, or you can find me on Asha Power Hope on Facebook. I believe that you will put some links here. I also provide often new hypnosis on my YouTube channel that have different subjects, from full body relaxation to building wealth. Whatever your needs are, just send me a message and I will send you the best link.
Amazing. I will also add all your links at the bottom of this podcast, wherever you post it. And I'll also tag you. So perfect.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, Asha.